Good morning, everyone, from the end of Norway's longest fjord. There's even a sign that says it.
So we are going to use the end of this fjord as the start of our sailing adventures on the way back out. We pushed pretty hard to get in here as quickly as we could because we had really good wind and we sailed all the way in. But now that the wind is kind of dead and the weather's changing, we're going to slowly be working our way back out and stopping at all of the cool places we saw when we were coming in.
Yep.
So we're going to spend the next, I don't know, week or so probably sailing back out and adventuring along the way.
Yeah. Right now we are in a town called Solden. That's how I heard that they're pronouncing it.
SKJ is pronounced shh. So
yeah,
Norwegian
Solden.
lesson number 2.
It's a very small little town, not much to it, but there's a bunch of awesome waterfalls around, a bunch of hikes around, and yeah, it is at the very end of the deepest and longest fjord, navigable fjord in the world.
Yep. It's not raining this morning, so we're gonna take that opportunity to stretch our legs.
This waterfall is absolutely gorgeous. Stop for a little snack, and then we're gonna start hiking down now because it's starting to rain. I hope you can hear me because it's pretty loud up here.
To climb, how far, how far,
So it's almost 4 o'clock in the morning and Den is still asleep, but we're pretty much sleeping with one eye open tonight because the wind is predicted to shift and come from the west sometime between tonight and tomorrow, and it's also supposed to increase up to 30 knots or more offshore, but we're not exactly sure how it's going to affect us because we're 100 miles inland, so I'm not sure how that's gonna, if it's gonna pick up or shift that far into the fjord. But if the wind does pick up, it means it's going to blow us directly into shore and into the rocks because the bottom here is very rocky, and so our anchor is has nothing to dig into, so it's literally just sitting on a rock. So we're just pretty much sitting on our anchor chain right now. If you listen carefully, from time to time you can hear the anchor chain dragging on the floor. It's pretty creepy. So I have my phone out, which is relaying the chop plotter's information, and we're just keeping an eye on everything. Hopefully the wind is not going to pick up until tomorrow morning, because it's nighttime right now and it's pretty dark outside. And since we're going to be sailing and tacking out of here, it would be nice to during the day. Yeah, I guess we'll see what the wind does. It is blowing 10 to 15 knots, so we're going to be using this wind to sail to the next little town called Gaupne. It's about 10 nautical miles away, so it should take us maybe 3 to 4 hours. The wind is coming from the mouth of the fjords, which means we're gonna have to tack, but it means we can still sail rather than motor without wind. So we're gonna use this wind today, and yeah, it's not gonna be a sunny passage, but it should be short, so we don't mind. Everything is ready. We just have to hoist the anchor, lift the anchor, hoist the sail. Yeah.
And then coffee.
And then coffee. I would say coffee first, but because the wind is coming from the mouth, it's getting a little bit choppy here, so it's not the most comfortable place to be right now. So might as well start sailing, and then on one of the long tacks we'll just make coffee. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do this. Put my rain jacket on. And off we go.
Off we go. Tacking down a fjord. On a lovely, sunny, warm afternoon. Alright, I'm gonna tack. We have about 40 more of these tacks to go. So it's a good exercise, good practice. So while Dad is making coffee inside, I am just getting my exercise done.
25, gusting up to 30, but woo, we're pretty heavily reefed. We're almost there though. I can see where we're going. Let's not hit that log, yeah? Giant log in the middle of the fjord. See it?
No.
3 o'clock?
Yes.
The tricky thing isn't that it's blowing 30 knots. The tricky part is that it's going from 10 knots to 30 knots in like 5 seconds. And then after 5 seconds, you get into back into 10 knots again. We are reefed and adjusted our sail for 30 knots, but then it means that when we get the 10 knot lulls, we don't move. So
I think once we're past these two bulkheads though, it's gonna start to smooth out a little bit. Less gusts.
I hope so.
Probably gonna average like 20 knots, but we're not gonna get the big fluctuation.
And then we're gonna turn, and then we're gonna be beam reaching for a while, and then we're gonna be downwind.
I think
and then we're gonna be there.
This might be the last fight we have to put up with.
Turning 3 tacks into 10.
Exactly. You know, these are miserable little fucks.
There's another big gust coming.
Definitely not flying the drone.
No. Huh.
Back off again.
Well, that was a fun, interesting passage.
Tired.
For a 10-mile sail, it was one of the most challenging sails I think we've done in a long time. We just made our turn into the finger of where we're going in a town called Gaupne. So we're only 2 nautical miles away now. So hopefully the wind doesn't die too much. But we're now on a beam reach. So it should be a nice comfortable sail all the way in.
It's calmed down a lot.
Yeah, it really has. Goodness gracious. I never imagined that there would be like such swells deep inside the fjord like this. It's crazy. Now, it's the last stretch. Hopefully we'll be there in less than an hour. If the wind doesn't die. But it's a fjord. You never know. Anything you want to say?
Definitely some of the most challenging sailing I think, we've ever done. Sailing in a fjord is it's very tricky because the wind just shifts so often. We're like unreefing and reefing and unreefing and reefing and getting gusts and rounding up and luffing. We even hove to for about 4 or 5 minutes there for a little while, just because the gusts were like 35 knots or something like that. But yeah, it's challenging sailing for sure, but it's super pretty and it's actually kind of enjoyable, so we don't mind.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we were kind of expecting to do. Oh, focus on me. Yeah. No, we kind of knew we were gonna do something similar. Like, we went all the way in 2 days, and then we were going to do like little short 10 to 15 mile passages on the way out, because doing this all the way out would suck. So yeah, so we're cutting it into multiple days. We're sailing 10 miles today. We're gonna enjoy the town for like a day or two, and then we're gonna sail another 10 miles. Now it's blowing 5 knots, and we are moving out 2 knots. So slow and steady. We'll make it there. Maybe in 2 hours. Maybe by nightfall. Who knows?
Oh, maybe we'll eat breakfast now that it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We've been sailing for what, 7 hours? We just rolled up the head sail because the wind has come around onto the nose. Although it's only 0.8 knots of wind, it's coming directly from the head of the fjord. So we're motoring the last half mile. There's supposedly a little bit of a dock that we can tie up to here, and it's got power and water. So we're gonna charge up the batteries, see what this town has to offer, and yeah, maybe get some food. I'm hungry. We haven't had any food yet today. This is like breakfast, and it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh my goodness.
How many tacks?
Oh, those are ugly. 41 tacks in 10 miles. Technically we did 42 tacks coming out of Biscayne Bay in Miami, like the very first time we left the United States to sail to Haiti. And that was only in like 3 miles, I think. So this is almost the most amount of tacks we've done. Definitely the roughest. And we had some really ugly ones in there for a while. We hove to for a little while. For like 2 minutes because the gusts were up into like the 35 plus and we needed to put a reef in. We got waves over the bow. It was a very exciting 10 miles. Let's see, from where we started to here is 10 plus 3, so about 13 nautical miles. We turned it into 30. And it took us almost 8 hours. 7 hours and 45 minutes. Oh man, that's exciting. I think next time we're gonna definitely sail at night with the catabatics maybe. Look at that. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Oh man. And then this little downwind stretch into the marina. Our average speed was only 4 knots. That's just because half of it we were like almost becalmed. It's like 30 knots, 10 knots, 30 knots, 10 knots. We were definitely like underpowered, but those knots, the gusts were just like f***ing us up. We are exhausted and we need some food. So we're gonna wander into town and see if anything's open and see if we can eat some delicious calories.
There's a pizza place like a walking distance from here. Well, everything is a walking distance. Depends how much you want to walk. Thank you.